Hello. I have taken a little hiatus and here I am. I am back behind the microphone. Had so many people messaging me asking, when is the podcast coming back? Well, you know what? I did take a little bit of a break and I had no planned date on when I wanted to come back. It was just whatever felt right for me. In that moment, I was just feeling a little overwhelmed, had so much on my plate and I needed to take a little step back and just focus on me and everything else to do with life after +1. But here I am, I'm back and I'm super pumped to be back here again. It is nice to be here with my headphones on and back behind the microphone. So here I am, but I've still been going strong everywhere else on my socials, on my blogs, on my e-newsletter, everywhere. I'm still out and about spreading the motivational support that you need on your single parent journey. So I am here to make sure you all find the good in where you are at as a single parent, because it can be quite challenging. It can be extremely exhausting and overwhelming, but it can also be extremely empowering and a great place to be when you actually learn to enjoy the good in where you're at. And that's where I come in, helping you find that good and to actually learn to love this part of your life. And for those of you that are not there yet, that's okay. It does take some time to get there. It does take a bit of processing, a bit of reflecting, a bit of understanding, and a bit of healing to actually get to that place where you do love your life as a single parent. So if you're not there yet, then hey, that's what this is for. But don't forget, there's also so much other content and everything else that is available here at Life After +1 if you are needing that bit of extra support and that bit of boost to help keep you on track and keep you on the right path to moving forward in your journey as a single parent. And there is that one-on-one coaching, drop-in sessions available, weekly ongoing sessions. You choose what you need, what works for you. There's Q&A sessions. There's also a weekly membership, which is something that I believe I started since I've stopped the podcast, so I probably haven't mentioned it on here before. So it's a weekly membership, which just comes at a monthly subscription fee, which is a cancel at any time. I don't do lock-in contracts. We all hate lock-in contracts, especially those gym memberships that you're stuck in and you cannot get out of. I do not do that. I hate that myself, so I'm not going to put you in that position. It's a monthly membership that you can cancel at any time, which includes ongoing weekly support from me. I will check in with you weekly to ask you any questions, to see if you need any support, to see how you're going, to keep you on track. Make sure you're not feeling lonely or lost or confused. And if you're having any issues with dating, with life, with your co-parent, with anything like that along the way, then that weekly membership is a great way just to get that ongoing support with those moments that don't come all the time, or you might be just having those random moments that you just need someone in your corner. You need someone that just understands it. You need someone that's going to give you support where they're not going to make you feel like shit. They're not going to criticize you. They're not going to tell you you're doing something wrong. They're not going to say, well, why'd you break up for? Which I see a lot on social media when people talk about being a single parent. You're not going to get any negative, I can't even say the word. You're not going to get any negative criticism here from me. You are going to get real, honest support. I'm not going to sugarcoat it though. I'm not going to give you any bullshit. I'm going to give you real, honest support and questions and advice and anything that's going to help you along the way that's based on where you're at. So if you're wanting some ongoing support, check that out. It's all in the show notes, plus my coaching, plus my ebooks, plus everything else. It's all there. So on that note, you're probably sick of me waffling on already, like you've just come back and you waffle. Yes, let me waffle. It's been a moment. So as I said, on that note, let's dive into today's topic. And I want to talk about healing. And I know some people don't like that word. It's a bit, oh no, I don't do that, or it's not for me, or I don't need to heal. I'm okay. I just need to forget my ex. It's more to it than that. So I'm going to unpack that in today's episode and talk about why so many people don't like to do it, but there are so many benefits about it. So let's talk about healing. Welcome to the Life After +1 podcast, where we turn life's lemons into delightful lemonade.
Get ready for inspiring stories, uplifting conversations, and all the tips and tricks to rock your single parent journey with style. I'm your host, Leanne, and it's time to embrace the adventure of life after +1. So let's dive in.
Okay, so let's talk about healing. And I know that's a word, as I kind of touched on in the intro, that a lot of people don't like to use. They just want to say, let's just get over the breakup. Let's just move on. Let's just forget my ex. Don't need to heal. What's that all about? That's nonsense. I just need to forget them and I'm good. Now, the thing is with that mentality, if it was only that easy, then there'd be no such thing as needing to do any healing. Forgetting your ex in the kindest way possible, all you're doing is putting a Band-Aid on what's happened. Because when you go to a breakup as a single parent, or when you go to a breakup as a single parent, but they're dates that you've been with after your marriage or your relationship with your kid's other parent, it does hurt a lot more. It stings a lot more. You've got a lot more to lose when you're going through the dating world as a single parent. And especially when you're going through your breakup with your co-parent, you can't just block them. You can't just pretend like it didn't happen because you've got a co-parent with this person. And a lot of people get caught up in that headspace of just thinking, well, if I just forget them, if I only talk to them when I have to, or if I can block them completely and they can do pick up from school and pick up or drop off from school and I don't have to see them, then I'm good. I don't need to heal. But if you're at a place where you're needing to completely avoid them as a way to get over them, then there's usually some deeper wounds there. Because if you were fine with the breakup, if you were okay with it, if you had no issues, you were just like, okay, it's done, I'm pissed off, it hurt, I don't like it, but hey, let's just co-parent amicably for the kids. Then you wouldn't feel the need to completely isolate yourself from them or to kind of remove yourself completely from their life. You would be okay with interacting with them every now and then for the kids. But when you're at that place where you don't want any communication, you don't want to talk to them, you want to avoid them completely, then there's other things that you're trying to avoid. When you're trying to avoid your ex, when you're trying to block them, when you want to shut it out completely, it's usually a sign that you're trying to avoid how they make you feel. You're trying to avoid the reminders that come up when you see them of what happened with your breakup. The reminders of, see, this just proves that I'm not good enough. This just proves that I'm a failure. This just proves that I'm never going to find anyone. This just proves that I've done something wrong. I could have tried harder. I could have done something differently. This just proves that nobody's going to love me. You get all these things caught up in your head. It's not your ex that's the issue. It's the emotions and the feelings that have come up from the breakup with your ex. That's the issue. So you can block them, you can delete them, you can avoid contact. But the thing is, soon as you're in a situation where you're getting triggered or those emotions are brought back up again, then that's when it all comes back to the surface. Because what a lot of people forget, and they convince themselves that when they're not dating or when they're just staying home or when they're keeping busy and distracting themselves, that's when they feel like, I'm good, I'm fine, I've gotten over everything because I'm not reacting, I'm not getting angry, I'm feeling okay, I'm feeling good. But what a lot of people tend to forget is they're feeling good because they're doing things in the moment that will make them feel good. They're doing things that are completely distracting them. They're avoiding dealing with the core issue. And when you're going through life in your comfort zone, so to speak, you're doing what you normally like to do, whether that's work, whether it's stuff with your kids, going out having fun, you're not being put in a situation where you might be triggered, or you're not being put in a situation where you're getting out of your comfort zone. You're dealing with the everyday routine of life. So of course that's not going to trigger you. Of course those emotions from your breakup aren't going to necessarily come up then. It's when you step back into the dating world. It's when you're in contact with your ex again. It's when these emotions are brought back up to the surface again, when you're put in a situation where you're triggered and boom, it's all come back again. And that's how you know you haven't healed and you haven't let go. And let me just run by a few signs quickly that can help you determine if you have let go of your ex or if you're still holding on, but you think you have let go. And some signs might be you're still stalking their social media. You're still wanting to know what they're doing, where they're going, who they're seeing. You're invested in their new partner, wanting to know all about them. And to a certain degree, that's okay, because if they're going to be around your kids, you do need to know that. But when it's a bit over the top, when it's a bit excessive, and you know when it is, you know when it's just stalking for your own benefit or if it's just for your own kids, you know the difference there. Another way you can tell that you haven't let go of your ex is when you're getting triggered or emotionally charged every time you see them. If you get a message from them, an email, a phone call, you see them at pick up or drop off, and you're telling yourself, I've got over them. I don't need them anymore. I'm done. But then anytime there's some form of contact with them, boom, you're triggered again. It's brought up all those emotions. You're angry, you're hurt, you're pissed off, you're bitter, you're feeling resentful, you've got all these emotions coming up. Then you walk away from the situation and you think to yourself, but I thought I was fine. I thought I was good. You're fine because you weren't dealing with that. You weren't in that situation where you were having to deal with those emotions. It was good to hide those emotions down because you were just living in your everyday comfort zone. But when you're put in that situation where those feelings and those emotions are going to come back up again, that's when you know, okay, I haven't let go of that yet. I haven't healed through that just yet. Some other signs is you're constantly trying to beat them. You're constantly trying to win. It's a tit for tat game. You're refusing to give in. You're refusing to cooperate because you're still hurt from the breakup and you're convinced that if I help them, if I cooperate, it's letting them win. When co-parenting is not about winning, co-parenting is about just doing what's best for the kids, doing what the kids need. And when you're caught up in that headspace of proving a point, talking about or trying to look at who's winning, who's doing better, who's got the better partner, who's got the better home, who goes on the better holidays with the kids, who has more fun with the kids, you're still holding on to something there. You're still trying to convince yourself of something, and beating your ex is one way of trying to make yourself feel better. But if you've let go of that, if you've healed from that, then you don't have that need to feel like you constantly need to compete with them. And some other little ways that can help you determine if you've let go or not. Are you still seeking an apology? Are you still seeking an explanation? Are you still hoping they will step up? Are you still hoping they will parent the way that you want them to? Are you still hoping they will change and be a better person? Do you have some form of expectation from them in the way that you want them to show up as a parent? Those are signs that you haven't let go. And you may step back and think, well, there's just normal things. What's wrong with wanting an apology? What's wrong with wanting an explanation? What's wrong with wanting them to step up? But the more you're expecting something from them, the more you're holding yourself back. And the thing is, it's not your ex's job to give you closure. Your ex, in the kindest way possible, doesn't owe you anything. Your closure comes from yourself. Your closure comes when you're actually ready to accept what's happened and you're ready to actually focus on you and your kids. And this is where so many people, again, in the kindest way possible, where they get it wrong. They stay focused on their ex. Their focus is on what they're doing, who they're with, what they're saying, how they're acting. Their focus is purely on their ex. Why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they stepping up? Why aren't they doing this for the kids? Why aren't they paying child support? Why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that? You're sending yourself insane by focusing so much on what your ex is doing. And I cannot even tell you how many times I've said this over the years on the podcast, and that is, you cannot change your ex. The only thing you can change is how you react and how you show up. And the quicker you take your focus off your ex and put it all onto you and how you show up and what you do as a parent and what you do for your kids and what you do in your everyday life, I guarantee you, your life will become so much easier. So much easier. And I understand that your ex, as a parent of your kids, has a responsibility. Yes, but the more you're fighting it, the more you're expecting something from them, the more you're creating more work for yourself. And I understand some people keep wanting them to do that because they're like, why should I have to do it? Why should I have to do this when this is their job? But the thing is, you're wanting them to do something, but you're creating more work for yourself in the process by trying to get them to do that. If you just stopped and focused on yourself and what you need to do, I guarantee that would be a whole lot less work than what it is when you're constantly chasing them. You're constantly wanting those answers. You're saying, why are you doing this? Well, I deserve an apology. This isn't right. Why? How is this happening? Why? I don't get it. Or whatever's happening in your communication, the more you expect something from them, the more stress you're putting onto yourself. And I can tell you now, if you're still in that place where you're wanting an explanation, you're wanting an apology, you're wanting some understanding, you're wanting them to cooperate, you're wanting something different from them, I can guarantee you haven't let go, you haven't healed, you haven't moved on. When you're still expecting something from your ex, you're still caught up there. You're still caught up in what happened in the breakup. And more often than not, that idea of wanting something from them, whether it be an apology or whatever else, always comes down to an emotion that you're holding on to from the breakup. So quite often when someone wants an apology, it's usually related to the need that you need that confirmation that you're not the problem. You need that confirmation that you didn't do anything wrong. You need that confirmation that you're not unlovable and you will be able to find another partner again. But the thing is, as I just touched on, it is not your ex's job to give you that confirmation, to give you that closure, to give you what you need to make you feel better. You are in this situation for your ex. If your ex wanted to make you feel better, they wouldn't be your ex. They would be your partner. It is now your job to make yourself feel better. And to do that, you go through that healing process. And one thing I've seen come up a lot lately on my social media with comments, with people asking me questions, is the fear of actually approaching that whole healing process, that whole letting go process and moving on. The fear of the unknown. And I did a story recently on my Instagram page asking that question. And there was quite a few people that ticked that as an option, that they're scared to go through that process because they're scared of the unknown. And the thing is, what's scarier for you? Going through that process where you can actually let go of the past, where you can actually learn to move forward, focusing on you and your needs and what you want? Or would you prefer to stay where you are, not change anything, and live your life exactly the same, and 5 years down the track, you'll be in the exact same situation as you are now because you're too scared to make any changes? And with anything in life, change can be scary because it's the unknown. And when you're going through that whole moving on process and letting go, it does involve a bit of change. And that is a very daunting process. And what a lot of people need to realize, well, not a lot, what everyone needs to realize is it's change for the better. And when I say change, it's not like we're changing who you are. You're going to be a completely different person. Well, hey, maybe you will be. But the idea of change is changing the way you react in situations, changing the way you respond, changing the way you handle things, changing the way you show up in life, changing the way you tolerate certain things, changing the way you set boundaries, if at all you haven't been or have been, changing the way you date. And this is a big thing that I see, and I get so many people try and shut me down when I say this because they just can't process this concept. And that is when you keep going out in that dating world and you keep going through the same cycle, so many people are still convinced that when this happens and they're going through the same dating cycle and keep having through the same issues and keep meeting the same dickhead type of people, women or men, they're convinced that it's because of the people that they're meeting. I mean, yes, there's a good chance that is. But the thing is, if you're going through this pattern over and over and over again, that is your cue to step back and look at what is happening. Because if you're not changing the way you show up, you're going to keep getting the same result. And this is something that a lot of people cannot process. They just think, well, no, it's not my fault. It's the person I'm dating. It's the people I'm meeting. That's the problem. But if you're meeting the same types of people over and over again, do you not see a common denominator here? And it's not me saying that there's something wrong with you. It's me saying when you go through a breakup and there's something that went wrong in that relationship, then that's what you need to look on. That's what you need to work through. That's what you need to change how you show up for that next relationship so you're not repeating that same pattern. If you don't change anything, if you don't heal from that, then yes, you will keep repeating that same pattern over and over again until you reach a point where you say, fuck it, I've had enough. I'm done. I'm out. I cannot handle this anymore. And then you give up. And then maybe 3, 4, 5 months down the track, maybe a bit longer, maybe a bit less, who knows? And then you think to yourself, kids are at the other parents. I'm bored. I'm alone. I need some company. So let's just download the app again. And then you're back to square one. Start meeting people, going on a date, same shit, different person. Just ends up the exact same way. And so many people are still convinced it's the people they're meeting. And as I just said, yes, that has a lot to do with it. But there's a reason why you're attracting the same people over and over again. That's the thing. And that's what people are overlooking. When you're going into the dating world where you're not believing in yourself, you don't feel confident in yourself, you don't know what you want, then you're going to settle. There's a good chance you will ignore the red flags because when you don't believe in yourself and you're going back into the dating world, heartbroken, bruised ego, feeling guarded, you're going to go into the dating world guarded. You're going to go into the dating world doubting yourself. You're going to go into the dating world thinking, I don't know if I deserve this. I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if they're going to like me. And quite often, you're attracting someone that's not what you're after because you're so focused on making them like you because you don't want to get heartbroken again. And quite often, I see this a lot where people are just making relationships work, even when they know they're not healthy ones, because they don't want to go through another breakup. They don't want to get heartbroken. So let's do what we can to make it work. Let's mold this person into the person I want them to be. But you can't do that. You can't do that. That is not going to sustain a healthy relationship. You cannot go into a relationship with the idea of wanting to change someone. And when you have actually healed, when you have let go, and I don't want to keep saying that word healed. I know it sounds a bit when you say it too much, but that's what this topic's about. But when you keep going into it, when you are a little wounded and heartbroken and a little beaten down, ego's taken a little bit of a toll, taken a bit of a hit, I should say, that's when you go into the dating world feeling like I'm not good enough, I can't get anyone better than this, so this person will do. I don't want to be single anymore, so this person will do. I don't know if I like them, but I don't want to go through another breakup, so let's see if we can make this work. Or you go into the dating world not even knowing what you want. And this is such a common thing I see in the dating world. People just hoping for the best. No idea what they want in a partner. Besides maybe some standard things that, dress nice, look nice, maybe height. Height's a big thing lately for some people. And then you've got your standard criteria, which is being respectful, being kind, being loyal. But let's be honest, these are standard things that everyone should be expecting from a partner anyway. So other than that, most people don't even know They don't even know. They get into relationships with people that are on totally different pages. Maybe it's where they live, maybe it's where they work, or their working schedule, or their parenting schedule, or something is just completely off. And then you get into it and you're like, this is just not going to work. Or maybe there's a habit or something about them that you don't like. Maybe they're not good at communicating. Maybe they're someone that just likes to run away and avoid shit. Whenever something comes up, they don't want to talk about it. They're just going to run away and disappear. Maybe they're just got some sort of habit that they have, where maybe they're a smoker or they're a heavy drinker or something, and there's something that you don't like, but you put up with it, you tolerate it because you think this is as good as you're going to get, or you're not going to get anyone else, or you don't want to go through another breakup. So you tolerate certain things. And this is what happens when you go back into the dating world when you're still hurt from the past, or when you're still guarded. You're going into the dating world guarded. You don't want to open up about certain things. I've even heard so many times people not telling this person that they're dating that they have kids. They don't want them to know that they've got kids. But if you start a relationship from lying, where is that going to get you? And I know you're lying from a good place. You don't want them to know that. But why would you want to date someone that you feel you had to lie about that? And it does happen a lot. You want to go into a relationship where you can be vulnerable, where you can be open and honest about what you want, what you're expecting, where you're at, what you want from your partner. So these are some of the benefits of actually going through that process of healing. Because one of the biggest things that takes a dive when you go through a breakup is your confidence. Your confidence. And that is why so many people fall into the habit when they're back in the dating world as a single parent of lowering their standards, settling, ignoring red flags, trying to make relationships work because they convince themselves of all those things I said earlier. They're not good enough. This is as good as I can get. They don't deserve anything more, or there's no other chance for them. This is it. This is their last opportunity at finding love. I've heard that more times than you can imagine. This is my last chance. I've got to make this work. No, it's not. No, it's not. Look how many millions of people we have on this planet. This is not your last chance. This might be the last chance with this person. You have endless chances. Don't feel like you need to put all your eggs in one bucket and feel like this is your last and only chance in finding love. There is an opportunity for everyone to find love. Everyone. However, I want to go back to talking about healing and the process of it. Because going through that process of actually working through how your breakup has made you feel, what it's brought up in you, things that trigger you every time you're in contact with your ex, or anytime something comes up. What are the emotions that's coming up? What's coming up for you? What's happening? And if you're not actually working through that, this is why so many people go back into relationships and they can be quite hostile or quite toxic because you're still holding on to a lot of that hurt from your previous breakup. And it may not necessarily be this new person that's doing something wrong, but they've just triggered an old wound in you. It might be something as simple as leaving the toilet seat up and boom, you're triggered, and it's just started a whole World War III. Something so simple. And this is what happens when you've got those wounds, and something, when it's still so raw and so fresh and you haven't worked through it, then yes, it will come open at the least expected moment. And quite often it happens at times that is just so minor. They're trivial little things. And then later you will think to yourself, why did I react like that? I don't understand. It wasn't a big deal. No, it wasn't a big deal. But how it made you feel, because it made you feel the same way as something that's happened in the past. It's brought out that wound again. Maybe it's that wound of not feeling heard, not feeling listened to, not being respected, not being understood, not being valued, not being validated, not being shown any appreciation, not being loved. It's brought up this same wound again that happened from your previous breakup. And that's quite often what happens when you're getting triggered. It's not so much the toilet seat that's bothering you. It's what that emotion is bringing up. It's how it's making you feel. I don't give a fuck about the toilet seat. I'm just sick of not being listened to. There's always more to it. There's always an underlying issue. And that's always where it comes from. I'm not being heard. I'm not being listened to. I'm not being validated. I'm not being respected. I'm not feeling loved. I'm not feeling appreciated. That's where all your triggers come from. And the more you keep ignoring them, the more they're going to keep building up. And now, I'm not saying everyone has got all these huge triggers where they just get off the handle. But if you've been to a breakup with a high conflict ex, and you're feeling all these emotions, or you're feeling not good enough, and you're feeling like you're a failure, or you're feeling all this shame and guilt and everything else, then there's a good chance you need to work through that. And for a lot of people, it is uncomfortable. And I've actually worked with a number of people that when we start working together, one of the first things I'll say is, I had no idea that this was going on. Meaning that they knew what they were going through with their co-parent was toxic, but they didn't realize how bad it was until I identified some of the things. And that's what happens when you're in it. You tend to normalize their behavior. You tend to protect your ex because it's your kid's other parent. But so many people get caught up thinking that this is just how it is. I just need to do what's right, and doing what's right is I'll just make sure I can keep them in my kids' lives and keep everything as happy and dandy as possible. But you're not making it happy and dandy for yourself. You're making it happy and dandy for your ex. And that is what the process of healing is about, is actually being aware of what's actually happening, how it's making you feel, how to work through that, and how to handle that in a more beneficial way for yourself. Because that's what is so common with co-parenting. People think they need to handle it in a way that's best for their ex. Because if they're responding in a way that you don't like, then that's going to trigger you. You don't want them to get angry at you. You don't want them to start villainizing you. You don't want them to start saying bad things about you. You don't want them to start fighting with you or doing things that's going to complicate things even more. So you give in. You give in. You don't set your boundaries. You just let them have it their way. And then you know what it does to you? It makes you feel exhausted. It makes you feel run down. It makes you feel unappreciated, disrespected. It just makes you feel like shit, to be honest with you. It sucks the life out of you because you're just there living your life to please this person that is going out of their way to make your life complicated. And that is why it's so important to heal when you're in a co-parenting relationship like that, and to work through those emotions. Because keeping the peace for your ex does not make co-parenting easier for you. It makes it easier for your co-parent. And as I touched on earlier, what we focus on here in coaching, in everything when it comes to healing and moving forward, it comes down to looking at you and focusing on how you can handle things differently, not about focusing on what you can do for your ex. It's all about you and how you show up. And that is what healing is all about. And that is why for so many people it is scary, because it does mean showing up differently. It does mean setting boundaries, which is something that a lot of people don't do. They're not comfortable with doing that. It's scary for some people. I know there's a lot of people I've worked with, and they're like, the first time I did it, it was very uncomfortable. I felt very much out of my comfort zone doing that. And that's a normal thing for me to hear when I'm working with people going through this, because they're used to giving in. And that's not a bad thing on them. They're trying to do what's right in the moment. They're trying to do what's right to keep everything easier. They're trying to do what's right to eliminate the conflict and the drama. But they're creating drama and conflict in themselves because they're just living their life to make their ex happier. So this is the part of the change that gets uncomfortable. You're learning how to set boundaries, which you haven't done before. You're learning to speak up for yourself. You're learning to have a voice. You're learning to be confident in yourself. You're learning to believe in yourself. And most importantly, you're learning to no longer be a doormat for your ex. It is so empowering where you can live your life knowing you have full control over it. You don't have to tiptoe around for your ex. You don't have to panic every time they message you or call you. You don't have to get all anxious or worked up every time you're doing pick up or drop off. And that's one of the biggest things we work through when we are coaching together, when we do go through that whole healing process and moving on and letting go, is building your confidence so you can start believing in yourself, so you can start speaking up. You can feel more confident in yourself to start setting those boundaries. You can feel more confident in yourself to actually say, no, that's not okay. I'm not doing that. And when you are dealing with a high conflict co-parent, they will make you feel like you have to do certain things for them. They will guilt you into doing certain things for them. And this is the whole part of moving on and letting go. And when you're still in that situation where you're doing certain things for your ex that you don't want to do, you're still in that situation where you're feeling uncomfortable, you're feeling guilted, you're feeling manipulated, then you haven't healed, you haven't let go, you haven't moved on. You're still in that cycle of living in that bubble with your ex, trying to please them, trying to keep the peace for them. When you heal, when you move on, when you let go, when you work through all those emotions, it doesn't just magically fix everything, but what it does is it helps you to show up differently. And this is where the change comes in. You change how you respond. You don't get triggered as much because you've let go of that attachment. You're not taking things so personally. That is the idea of healing. Those wounds, those things that used to trigger you, you now understand why, and they're not bothering you as much because you've worked through that. You now believe in yourself. You now understand why it was coming up. And that is the process of healing. So yes, change is uncomfortable, but what is more uncomfortable? Staying exactly the same and being there at pretty much the beck and call for your ex to make them happy? Or actually going through the process, working through things slowly, step by step. It's not an overnight process, I can tell you that. It does take time because it's a slow habit of reframing the way you do things, of changing the way you show up. And eventually, it'll slowly start to fall into place. Each week, we'll put together some tools, give you some tips of what to do. We'll talk through where you're at, and you slowly implement these tools into your life. And eventually, you'll see the difference. I promise you that. You will see that, no, you know what? I'm actually setting boundaries for the first time in my life, and I love that. I'm not actually bothered when my ex calls me or texts me anymore. I'm actually out dating and I'm having fun. I'm not getting so worked up or I'm not getting stressed about it. And that is the whole idea of healing. It's about getting yourself to a place where you can enjoy your life, and it's focused around you. You have control of your life. You have control of how you show up. But whilst you're still caught up in that bubble of dealing with your ex and tiptoeing around their needs, then you're never going to get that full control because they've still got that, they're still dangling that carrot in front of you and you're still chasing it to make them happy, to keep the peace. Your job in life is not to keep the peace for your ex. Your job in life is to make you happy. You're leading by example for your kids. You show your kids that you can speak up for yourself. You show your kids that you are confident in yourself and you deserve so much better. And that, my friends, is the benefit of healing and letting go and working through all those emotions. Because if you don't, it's just going to keep coming up over and over again. Each time you're in a situation where you get triggered and you're like, what the fuck just happened? I'll tell you what happened. You've just brought up an old wound that you haven't worked through. So if you do want to work through any of those wounds, your breakup, your co-parenting, your dating, anything to do with your single parent life, let's have a chat. Jump onto my show notes, grab a free chat. Let's get you started. Let's get you healed and through this process. Let's normalize this process of actually working through the hurt instead of sweeping it under the carpet, pretending like everything's okay and distracting yourself with a new partner thinking they're going to make it better. I promise you they won't. If anything, it'll bring out that hurt even more that you didn't realize was there. So let's work through that, guys. So thank you everyone for coming back and listening again. I won't say week after week because it's been a bit of a break since I have been here. It's, probably about 3 months, 2 months. I don't know. Anyway, here I am anyway. So thank you all for coming back. And if you have any questions, feel free to message me. You can email me. You can come over to Instagram and send me a DM, TikTok, wherever. Come over, Facebook. I'm there. I will respond. I promise I always do. So thanks, guys. Thank you, everyone. And until next week, I'll be in your ears then.
Thank you for joining us on the Life After Plus One podcast. If you loved what you heard today and looking for some further support, then jump onto our website, lifeafterplusone.com. Plus, don't forget to check out our Instagram page for further resources and inspo. You can find all the links in the show notes. And remember, you're not alone on this path. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. And in the meantime, keep thriving, keep growing, and keep exploring your amazing life after plus one.